Joe Burrow got the call. No, not that call. No, not. There's different calls you can get. Joe Burrow got the call from somebody important that told him, hey, man, let's stand down to that whole, we might do an Eli Manning thing. We'll play. Don't believe me? Here's Joe Burrow's own words.
I'll play whoever for whoever drafts me. I'm just not going to be presumptuous about, what they want to do. It's the draft. You guys have been covering it for a long time. You never know what's going to happen. Yeah, of course I want to be the first pick. That's every kid's dream. I've worked really, really hard for this opportunity, and I'm blessed to be in this position. And a lot of people helped me get here. So I'm just really excited to be in this place.
All right, perfect answers, by the way. He also did I don't know where you guys get this stuff from. Like, kind of got it from you. Kind of got it from your workout guys, too. Just saying. Anyway, Joe Burrow is going to be the number 1 overall pick. All right, that's good. He's Cincinnati Bengals out there. But here's the question. Should he be? And before you say, there's Gottlieb with the haterade, I've told you before, and I'll tell you again, the Chargers won that trade. They won it. Right? We look at it, and if you want to say that Eli Manning, because they won a Super Bowl, is a better quarterback than Phillip Rivers, you're allowed to. The Chargers will still have won that trade. Because the 3 picks that they got became Phillip Rivers, Nate Kading, who was a Pro Bowl caliber kicker, and the next year's first-round pick was Sean Merriman, who you hear sometimes on Fox Sports Radio and was the Rookie of the Year, was would be a top 5 overall pick if he came out today. So it's not just in terms of the results either that you got Kading, who was a 2-time Pro Bowler, a first-team All-Pro, and a second-team All-Pro as a kicker. It's the idea that what you can get as 3 or 4 or 5 pieces is better than the one piece, even if the one piece becomes a Super Bowl champion, like Eli Manning did. And then you factor in that Joe Burrow does not have a plus arm. Combine that with Joe Burrow does not have plus hand size. And I'm not saying he's not going to be a great quarterback, but it is not a home run, especially in Cincinnati. He's got mobility. He's got the brains. But he's also older than the competition he was playing against. He was playing with a ridiculous amount of talent around him. And now he'll be on a talent-bereft team in terrible weather. Let's not get it twisted. Joe Burrow's going, and it's not that SEC weather is always perfect, but it's hot and steamy in the summer. And, of course, when they won the national championship, it was played in a dome. When they won the SEC championship, it was in a dome. You know what they don't have in the AFC North? That would be a dome. Domes make everything look better, right? Domes are like filters on your IG. Man, she's got perfect skin. Yeah, it's a filter. You make anybody's skin look perfect. Duh. And you're in a division where historically you have 2 great franchises with 2 great defenses. And Cleveland's got a lot of talent if they can ever figure it out. They don't even have to figure it out, and you're already in with the 4th best franchise, with the 4th most amount of talent. I don't know. I'm sitting here thinking, if I'm Cincinnati, he wants to commit to Cincinnati. And look, this is a lot like my proposal Friday on the Herd, which is the Cowboys should trade up and get Tua and then figure out what they want to do with Dak. If, you can let Dak walk, you can figure out a way to sign and trade him. There's a bunch of different things that you can do. I know that Dak and Tua thing probably never happens, and I'm guessing this never happens with the Bengals. But if you actually look, this is how the Bengals were built. Don't believe me? Go look at their Football Reference. You remember when the Cincinnati Bengals made the playoffs 5 years in a row? Remember that? It wasn't that long ago. It wasn't like it was like last week, but it wasn't that long ago. If you go to 2012 through 2015, they went to the playoffs 2011, which is 2012 playoffs, through 2015, they went to the playoffs every year, right? I mean, think of what that team was built around. Andy Dalton was their quarterback. Andy Dalton was a second-round pick at quarterback. Their running back, the first year they went to the playoffs, was Cedric Benson, who was the now-deceased Cedric Benson, who was a tremendous college player and was, I believe, the fourth pick in the draft, but he was this was his second team because he had flamed out at times with the Bears. Then they had Ben Jarvis Green Ellis. Right. Obviously, A.J. Green has been a top-level Pro Bowl, All-Pro, future Hall of Famer during his time. But for the most part, if you look at those Cincinnati Bengals teams, including the best one, the last one, that won 12 games in 2015, go and look at it. Andy Dalton was a second-round pick. Jeremy Hill was a second-round pick. Tyler Eifert was a late first-round pick. This is before all the Andrew Whitworth, second-round pick. Carlos Dunlap, remember, second-round pick, 54th pick in the draft. Was he a great college player? He was. Why did he go so low? Because he got a DUI before the SEC championship, was passed out in his car. Michael Johnson, third-round pick out of Georgia Tech. He was their second-best defensive player. He was a first-round talent, had off-the-field issues. Geno Atkins was a fourth-round pick. He was their best defensive player. Adam Pac-Man Jones. Now, he was a first-round pick of Tennessee, but he was out of the league. Like, look, who the Bengals have always been, solid and steady at quarterback, regardless of draft position, and they've been able to do a great job in the lower rounds, second round on in the draft, getting guys that other people chose to pass on and finding a way to make it work. From Adam Jones to Vontez Burfict to Ray Maualuga. Right? Remember Ray Maualuga? USC running back. How'd he go in the second round? Off the field issues. That's how that team was built. And if you're Cincinnati and you want to rebuild it to where it was when you were consistently winning in the same division, and this is around the time Steelers were good, Hall of Fame quarterback. Ravens were good. They won a Super Bowl. And you were still there every year for 5 years in a row before the bottom fell out. What do you need? Value in the draft. And then you have the signs of a guy who's really good, very smart, super clever, but small hands, not a rocket arm, and you're playing outside. Here's John Middlecoff, 3 Now podcast, last week when he talked about Joe Burrow and how he fits in Cincinnati.
Think about the players in that division over the last couple decades that have been good. They have had big-time arms. I mean, Flacco, I know he wasn't good the last couple years, but he was good for a period of time. Obviously, Roethlisberger. Dalton they got away with, but really Palmer's the better example. That division's cold. It's all outside.
Yep.
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they fall in love with Herbert.
All right. Justin Herbert is bigger, stronger, and throws like he's firing a howitzer cannon. People like to say, well, Joe Burrow, Joe Montana. Does Joe Montana work if he plays in that division? Don't know. Look, I don't believe Cincinnati moves off this pick. I think Joe Burrow got the call that Cincinnati's not playing ball, so don't even bother sitting out because they're not even entertaining the idea of trading Joe Burrow. But while half of America has already decided Joe Burrow should have pulled an Eli Manning, I wonder why the Cincinnati Bengals didn't consider allowing him to do so they could trade him anyway. Yesterday we found out that the Dallas Cowboys looked at their phone, texted Dak Prescott's agent, who said, who dis? New phone, right? No, I'm kidding. Apparently they haven't talked or had any sort of contract discussion since September, which is the old, hey, in Dak's mind, or in his agent's mind, Dak bet on himself and won. All right, go look at the stats. If you looked at the stats, the offensive stats in the National Football League from last season, and you're Dak Prescott's agent, you're like, well, we did pretty well for ourselves. Dak Prescott was second in yards passing. Second. Gross stats, number one offense in football. Now, in quarterback rating, Dak Prescott was 13th in football. Right? In QBR, Dak was 4th. So pick whatever you want. Pick whatever stat you want. Touchdown passes thrown, Dak was 4th. Interceptions, he had 11. So he was kind of mid pack in terms of all quarterbacks, right? Not Jameis Winston, not Baker Mayfield, not Phillip Rivers or Jared Goff or Kyle Allen, but he did have 11 interceptions, which is in the territory of Trubisky and Daniel Jones. But you go around and you're like, he had a good year. You ask the Dallas Cowboys, they're like, we finished 8-8. We finished 8-8 with a terrible division, a favorable schedule, and a 3-0 start. We beat one team with a winning record all season long, and that was the Philadelphia Eagles, who we couldn't score a touchdown against late in the year on the road. So a lot of this just depends upon your perception. I'm sure from Dak Prescott's agent's perspective, all these guys have signed for and will continue to sign for more money, and Dak showed that he can perform at the top of his craft, so he should be paid at the top of his field. Whereas the Cowboys are like, the numbers don't actually tell you what you think they should. Right? We made you a generous offer. We said it was our last and final. You didn't do much to dissuade us. Like the perfect example of why yards passing don't really matter. Top 5 in yards passing. Ready for it? Jameis Winston. How'd his team do? Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan. None of these teams made the playoffs. Not one of them. If you want to go QBR, more telling, better, right? Lamar, Pat Mahomes, Drew Brees, then Dak, Russell Wilson, Matt Stafford, Deshaun Watson, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Ryan Tannehill, Derek Carr. A little bit more telling about success. The problem is, if you break down the splits of Dak Prescott, it's like a tale of two quarterbacks based upon how good the teams were he played against. That's really kind of what it comes down to. Really what it comes down to. He was very good at home. He was average to below average on the road. In blowouts, wins of 15 or more points, he was incredible. Incredible. Fourth quarter, not so much. But the big thing was, when you look at the opponents, the good ones, Buffalo, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, they lost at home. Green Bay, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, they lost. New England, no touchdowns. Granted, rainstorm, no touchdowns, 1 interception. New Orleans, no touchdowns, 1 interception, below 225 yards passing. Where all the stats come from? The Giants, where he had 7 touchdown passes and 1 interception, 2 games against them. The Washington Redskins. He had 14 touchdown passes and 2 interceptions against 2 of the worst teams in the league. Right? Congratulations. And 3 and no touchdowns against the Detroit Lions. That's 17. 17 of his touchdown passes were against terrible teams. So you can sit here and tell me all you want about Dak Prescott and how great a season he was, but it all depends upon your perception. And when the Cowboys and Dak's agent aren't talking, it tells you that his agent is waiting for the call, and the Cowboys have already made the call. It was in September. We said last and final. That was last and final. Hey, what up? Doug Gottlieb here. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel here at Fox Sports Radio. You can catch my show, all the shows on Fox Sports Radio, unique interviews, strong takes, just interesting discussion on the sports topic of the day, of the week, of the month. It's all encompassing. It's everything you need right here on YouTube. Subscribe.